So talk to me, Doug. How are you?
I'm good, man. Just living life, or at least trying to, like whatever that means. You know, every day is another day. Every day is another grind. As this, as we were just saying, like you wake up every day trying to tackle what's on your menu, what you got to get done, and what you want to get done like the day after. So every day I wake up, I'm just thinking about shit like what's the next challenge that I can conquer today, and what hurdle do I have to like overcome today. So that's just what every day has been for like the longest while, I guess I can say. Just trying to better myself in like all ways, pretty much. um Grew up like most people from the hood, like listening to music, playing ball. And when I realized that those two options weren't for me, or weren't necessarily like my options out of the hood, quickly like went to fashion, went to LaSalle College for fashion design. Then my interest switched, and most recently picked up the camera, and I'm a director and photographer. So that's like basically what I've dedicated my life around now. It's something that fuels me, something that is like my energy, and it's something that I see myself being super, lucrative off of, and something that's been really like beneficial in my life, whether it's financially or just like socially. I've been able to like be in places that I weren't necessarily able to be in just because I have a camera. And I was able to meet people that I wasn't able to meet prior to picking up a camera or like using a camera. So I think like, just finding myself with photography or with a camera has been like the biggest thing that's happened in recent years. Especially with COVID happening, losing your job or like not having as many hours, like it gives you time during the day to really think about like shit. Like I have all this time on my hands, but I have nothing to really do. So when I realized that like I have all the time in the world and everybody else does, I was like, okay, like how can I try to be better than my neighbor? How can I try to be better than the other person that's sitting at home watching TV right now? So the camera was like, that was it for me. And ever since, I've been like using it. It's been, like I said, it's been like really, really like beneficial to me. I've been able to work on personal projects that I've only dreamed of working on, like when I was little, and like now being able to like do like the necessary steps to like make those dreams come true. It's been like the craziest thing, Give me time to slow down, really put things in perspective, and like put like all of like your negative thoughts like at the forefront of your life. You're thinking about like finances, you're thinking about, oh, like okay, like if I can't necessarily do this program in school in person, then like how can I teach myself at home? So like there was like a lot of like self-reflection, a lot of learning about yourself during like like time at home. So I think like now I'm like on more of a level playing field with myself, or with like the person that I imagine myself to be, and like the person that I actually was. I think now like I'm sort of at like a median, so like things are like slowly getting to where they should be, or where I imagine them to. So I'm like been super excited. I can't wait to like see what's next for me. And yeah, it's pretty much, life's been good, honestly. Some people like myself, I was born here. Fortunately, like I didn't have to like flee my country for like reasons of war or like turmoil. But fortunately, I was born here, and I have the luxury to like travel when I want to, and go back to places where I've been to, or like my family's been to, and like not necessarily like have the same like experience from that place as them, like friends and family. They're like they come from like places back home and so whatnot, and they tell you like, yeah man, like I love my country, but it's not the best because there's violence, there's this, there's that. I can't necessarily say that, but I definitely can say that like I'm like working on myself so that one day I can go back home, and gain that experience, whether it's like in my early 50s, 70s, 80s. I just want to gain that experience that like my ancestors or like my family members were able to gain because they were brought up in those environments. like, you know, your biggest like ammunition is like, you know, is your brain. Like, to be quite honest, like you can look the like, you know, like you can look the best, you can have the most money, but like after people like, you know, see like you for like what you look like physically, like they're gonna want to speak to you, you know. So like once you open up your mouth, and if there's nothing really you know, valuable to say or like to hear, then they're just gonna dismiss you regardless. So I think like, you know, just understanding that like everybody's different but we're all the same at the same time is like the biggest way to like, you know, gain like the most knowledge or like be the most equipped to, you know, like maneuver in the world, right? You know, like perspective is everything. So like listening and learning about everybody's perspective is kind of the best way to go about anywhere. And like unfortunately, like people that don't necessarily have the means or like aren't necessarily in like, you know, places like Montreal that have like a lot of like resources for like young youths and whatnot to like go to like, you know, youth centers where they have like music, where they have sports and whatnot. Like being like excluded from these things like very young, it would have like deterred me in a way where I don't think I'd probably be where I am today. But like I was fortunate enough to be exposed to these things, and like it kind of like, you know, made me like have a little bit of love for everything. So like family, parents, I feel like if you don't necessarily have that foundation, like you're kind of like you're not left alone or like left to fend from yourself, but it's definitely like a lot different and a lot more difficult to kind of like find your identity in the world. Like, when I was younger, like my mom was fortunate enough to buy me one, and like I would like take like small videos and whatnot of myself, and I don't know, like I had it was in the house and it was COVID, so I said, shit, let me just like, you know, just pick it up, and I did. And like ever since, like I just didn't put it down, you know. I would go outside, like it all started on film, so I would go outside. I had like my film camera, I had 36 pictures, and this is when like the film stores were closed, but I was taking pictures just to take pictures. Like I didn't see anything, you know, like I couldn't see the results or anything. I couldn't even get them developed because the stores are closed, right? But I was just doing it because it was like, fuck, like this is like the only thing that I can do. It's what's bringing me outside, and like I gained so much joy from it. And I realized that like in a time where like everybody feels so alone, like I felt like I had so much, you know. So like that's just where like my love for it started, and like now it's become my life, you know. Being into like music and stuff, like I always like looked at like artists and like, fuck, like one day I want to meet these guys, or one day I want to take their pictures and whatnot. And like I'm kind of like living that right now. Like, yeah, like I may not be like, you know, documenting like the biggest artists or like the most well-known like, you know, like figures in the world, but like even just like like photographing or documenting like local artists and like local talent here, like it's such a privilege, and it's literally like a dream come true. As weird as that may sound, like I can't believe that, you know, like I'm able to go to like shows and stuff like that and take pictures of just people that make music, right? And like I'll be able to like, you know, talk to them in the club like later on that night. So like in 5 years, man, like I just like honestly, like I want to, hopefully at the very least I want to be able to do the same thing that I'm doing right now, at very least, to be honest.